Close your eyes and imagine yourself standing on the banks of the mighty Nile River nearly 4,000 years ago. The first light of dawn gently spreads across the golden desert. The calm water reflects the soft orange sky as birds begin singing their morning songs. A cool breeze carries the fresh scent of the river. Small fishing boats quietly glide across the peaceful water. In the distance, farmers prepare for another busy day. The Nile is the heart of ancient Egypt. Without it, this great civilization could never have existed. Every year, the river floods the land, leaving behind rich black soil perfect for growing wheat, barley, vegetables, and dates. As the sun rises higher, villagers slowly wake. Smoke rises from clay ovens where fresh bread is being baked. Children help carry water from the river while merchants prepare their goods for the marketplace. Palm trees gently sway in the morning wind. White birds fly low above the sparkling water. Far beyond the river, enormous pyramids stand proudly against the endless desert. For centuries, they have watched over Egypt like silent guardians. The peaceful rhythm of life begins once again. Boats carry food and supplies between villages. Farmers guide their oxen through fertile fields. Craftsmen open their workshops. Life flows as steadily as the Nile itself. As warm sunlight fills the valley, the beauty of ancient Egypt awakens. One peaceful morning, one timeless civilization, and one river that gave life to an entire kingdom. Now, relax. Listen to the gentle sounds of the Nile and drift peacefully into sleep. As the golden sun climbs higher above the Nile, the quiet fields slowly awaken. Farmers leave their simple mud brick homes, carrying wooden tools over their shoulders. For thousands of years, these fertile lands have been the heart of ancient Egypt, feeding one of the world's greatest civilizations. The rich black soil beneath their feet was a precious gift from the annual flooding of the Nile every year. The river spread fresh layers of nutrient-rich silt across the land, creating perfect conditions for growing crops. Without the Nile, ancient Egypt would have been nothing more than endless desert. Teams of oxen slowly pull heavy wooden plows through the soft earth while farmers carefully guide them forward. Others scatter seeds of wheat, barley, onions, flax, and vegetables across the freshly turned fields. Every movement is slow, steady, and practiced through generations of experience. Nearby, workers lift water from irrigation canals using simple wooden devices called shadoofs. Bucket after bucket, fresh Nile water flows into smaller channels, keeping the fields alive beneath the warm Egyptian sun. Every drop is precious, and every harvest depends upon it. Children help their parents by carrying baskets, collecting vegetables, or chasing hungry birds away from the crops. The sound of splashing water, singing workers, and gentle breezes moving through tall reeds fills the peaceful countryside. As the morning continues, the farms become a place of constant activity. Donkeys carry heavy loads, baskets overflow with fresh grain, and neighbors work together as one community. Farming is more than a job. It is the foundation of Egyptian life. The harvest feeds ordinary families, supplies the bustling markets, supports skilled craftsmen, and fills the vast storehouses of the mighty pharaoh. Every loaf of bread, every jug of beer, and every meal begins here, beside the life-giving waters of the Nile. As the sun climbs toward midday, the endless green fields stretch across the horizon, standing in beautiful contrast to the golden desert beyond. In ancient Egypt, life begins with the river, and every successful harvest is a gift from the Nile itself. Close your eyes. The first rays of sunlight gently touch the rooftops of a quiet Egyptian village. One by one, families begin to wake as another peaceful day starts along the banks of the Nile. The narrow dirt paths slowly fill with life. Wooden doors open, and the fresh morning air carries the smell of warm bread baking inside clay ovens. Smoke rises gently into the clear blue sky. Children laugh as they run outside to help their parents. Some carry water from the Nile in large clay jars, while others feed chickens, goats, and small livestock waiting patiently for breakfast. Nearby, skilled potters begin shaping soft clay into beautiful bowls and jars. Weavers carefully prepare fine linen cloth, while carpenters smooth wooden furniture using simple bronze tools. Every craftsman plays an important role in village life. The sound of donkeys walking through the streets mixes with friendly conversations between neighbors. Merchants prepare baskets filled with vegetables, dates, figs, onions, and fresh bread before traveling to the busy markets. Palm trees gently sway in the warm breeze, providing welcome shade from the growing heat of the Egyptian sun. Bright flowers bloom beside small gardens where herbs and vegetables are carefully tended by local families. In the center of the village, elders gather beneath a large sycamore tree to share stories and discuss the day's work. Life moves peacefully, guided by tradition, family, and the endless rhythm of the Nile. As the sun rises higher into the sky, every home, workshop, and street becomes filled with activity. Although simple, the village is full of warmth, friendship, and hard work. For the people of ancient Egypt, each new morning brings hope, purpose, and gratitude for the life-giving river that makes everything possible. The peaceful village awakens, and another beautiful day in ancient Egypt begins. As the Egyptian sun rises higher into the sky, the village marketplace slowly comes alive. Merchants arrive from every direction, leading donkeys loaded with baskets of grain, vegetables, pottery, linen, and spices. The quiet streets quickly fill with friendly conversations and the sounds of daily trade. Fresh bread is placed on wooden tables, while colorful fruits, dates, onions, garlic, and figs are carefully arranged for customers. The air is filled with a warm smell of baked bread and fragrant herbs. Nearby, fishermen proudly display their morning catch from the Nile. Large fish glisten in the sunlight as families gather to buy food for the day ahead. Potters present beautifully painted jars and bowls, while skilled goldsmiths display delicate jewelry crafted from gold and precious stones. Every shop reflects the remarkable talent of ancient Egyptian craftsmen. Linen merchants proudly unfold soft white cloth woven by hand. Farmers exchange baskets of grain for pottery, vegetables, and tools. Money is rarely used. Most people simply trade one valuable item for another. Travelers from nearby villages bring exciting news and stories from distant lands. Friendly greetings, laughter, and cheerful bargaining echo throughout the marketplace. creating the heart of community life. Children watch with excitement as musicians play simple wooden flutes and drums, filling the market with joyful melodies. Life feels peaceful, colorful, and full of energy. As the morning continues, the marketplace becomes the center of ancient Egyptian society, a place where families meet, merchants prosper, friendships grow, and every corner tells a different story. For the people of ancient Egypt, the marketplace is far more than a place to buy and sell. It is the heartbeat of everyday life along the mighty Nile. The marketplace is now busy, and inside every Egyptian home, breakfast is being prepared. The smell of freshly baked bread fills the warm morning air. Bakers remove golden loaves from large clay ovens, just as their families have done for generations. Bread is the most important food in ancient Egypt, eaten by both the rich and the poor. Alongside the bread comes another daily favorite, beer. Unlike modern beer, Egyptian beer is thick, nutritious, and made from barley. It is considered safer to drink than river water, and is enjoyed by men, women, and even children in small amounts. Families gather on woven reed mats to begin their morning meal. Fresh bread is served with onions, garlic, dates, figs, cucumbers, and soft cheese. Wealthier families may also enjoy honey, fresh fruit, roasted duck, or fish from the Nile. Clay cups filled with cool beer are passed around as everyone shares stories before beginning the day's work. Children laugh while grandparents offer advice and tell stories of the great pharaohs. The morning meal is not only about food, it is a time for family, gratitude, and togetherness. Nearby, skilled bakers continue kneading dough while brewers carefully prepare the next batch of beer using ancient recipes passed down through countless generations. The aroma of warm bread drifts through the village streets, mixing with the sounds of merchants, craftsmen, and farmers beginning another peaceful day. For the people of ancient Egypt, a simple breakfast provides the strength needed to build temples, cultivate the fertile land, and keep one of history's greatest civilizations alive. Every loaf of bread, every cup of beer, begins another remarkable day beside the life-giving Nile. As breakfast ends, the peaceful morning gives way to another important part of Egyptian life: work. For most Egyptians, the Nile was the reason life was possible. Its waters transformed the dry land into fertile fields. Farmers used simple wooden tools and strong oxen to prepare the soil and plant crops. Golden fields of wheat and barley provided food for families, and grain for the entire kingdom. After the harvest, workers carried the grain to storage buildings where it could be protected for the months ahead. But farming was not the only work along the Nile. Fishermen entered the river each morning searching for fresh fish. Their nets could bring home enough fish to feed entire families and supply nearby markets. Farther along the river, workers moved heavy materials that would eventually become temples, tombs, and monuments. Skilled craftsmen carefully carved stone, creating the beautiful temples and monuments that still amaze us today. Farmers, fishermen, craftsmen, and merchants all depended on one another, creating a busy world connected by the river. From the fields to the workshops, almost every part of daily life was connected to the Nile. And as the sun slowly moved across the sky, another day of work continued along the life-giving Nile. Every field, every boat, every harvest, all depended on one remarkable river. After the busy morning outside, let us step inside a typical Egyptian home. Most ordinary families lived in simple, mud brick houses built to stay cool beneath the hot Egyptian sun. Their walls were thick, and small windows helped keep the rooms shaded. Inside, life was simple but organized. Families cooked meals over clay ovens, stored grain in large jars, and rested on woven mats. Wooden stools and simple furniture provided places to sit and work. The courtyard was often the heart of the home. Here, families could prepare food, weave linen, care for animals, and spend time together away from the heat of the afternoon. Women worked on household tasks while children helped wherever they could. They might carry water, look after animals, prepare food, or learn skills from their parents. In wealthier homes, life looked very different. Large houses could have several rooms, painted walls, gardens, pools, and servants. Some wealthy Egyptians decorated their homes with colorful paintings of flowers, birds, food, and scenes from everyday life. But whether a family was rich or poor, the home remained a place of safety, family, and tradition. As the afternoon heat grew stronger outside, people gathered in the shade, sharing food and stories. For the ancient Egyptians, home was not simply a building. It was where children grew up, traditions were passed down, and another generation learned how to live beside the Nile. Long before the pyramids became silent monuments, they were enormous construction sites filled with people, noise, and constant activity. Under the blazing Egyptian sun, thousands of workers gathered to build a monument that would stand for thousands of years. Huge blocks of limestone were cut from quarries using simple tools. Skilled workers carefully shaped the stone before it was transported toward the construction site. Some blocks were dragged across the ground on massive wooden sledges. Teams of workers pulled together, while others poured water onto the sand to make the movement easier. Along the Nile, boats carried heavy stones from distant quarries toward the building site. The river became the great transportation route that connected the workers with the material they needed. At the pyramid, ramps helped workers move enormous blocks higher and higher. Stone by stone, the structure slowly grew. Architects and skilled craftsmen measured every section with remarkable precision. Workers had to keep the walls straight and the sides aligned with incredible accuracy. Life at the construction site was difficult, but workers were organized into teams. They built shelters, prepared food, carried water, and worked together toward the same enormous goal. As the sun crossed the sky, the pyramid grew taller above the desert. Generation after generation would remember the monument they helped create. And when the final stones were placed into position, an extraordinary structure stood against the Egyptian horizon. The Great Pyramid was not built in a single day. It was the result of years of planning, engineering, teamwork, and determination. Today, thousands of years later, it still stands as one of humanity's greatest architectural achievements. While ordinary Egyptians worked in their homes and fields, life inside the royal palace was very different. At the center of the kingdom stood the pharaohs' palace, a grand world of painted walls, tall columns, gardens, and carefully decorated rooms. The palace was not simply a home. It was the center of royal power, where important decisions about the kingdom were made. Early in the day, servants prepared the palace for the pharaoh. Floors were swept, fresh linen was arranged, and food was prepared in the royal kitchens. Beyond the main rooms were beautiful gardens filled with palm trees, flowers, pools, and shaded walkways. Water brought from the Nile helped keep the gardens green beneath the hot Egyptian sun. Inside the palace, skilled craftsmen created beautiful furniture, jewelry, painted decorations, and objects for the royal family. Officials arrived to speak with the pharaoh about taxes, crops, trade, construction, and the affairs of distant regions. The pharaoh's appearance was carefully prepared. Linen clothing, jewelry, and the royal symbols of power showed everyone that they were standing before the ruler of Egypt. Meals inside the palace could be far more elaborate than those of ordinary families. Bread, fruit, fish, meat, honey, and other foods were prepared by skilled cooks. Yet behind all this luxury was responsibility. The pharaoh was expected to protect Egypt, maintain order, support the temples, and ensure that the kingdom continued to prosper. As the sun began to set, the palace gardens became quiet. The Nile reflected the fading golden light, while the royal residence remained a symbol of wealth, power, and the extraordinary world of ancient Egypt. Hello? As the day continues, our journey takes us toward one of the most magnificent religious centers of ancient Egypt, the great temples of Karnak. From a distance, enormous stone columns rise above the landscape, decorated with carvings and colorful paintings. The temple complex is not simply one building. It is a vast collection of temples, courtyards, halls, statues, and sacred spaces built and expanded by generations of Egyptian rulers. As visitors approach the entrance, towering stone structures create a feeling of power and mystery. Inside, enormous columns surround the great hypostyle hall. Some rise like a forest of stone, covered with hieroglyphs describing gods, kings, battles, and offerings. Priests move quietly through the sacred areas, carrying out ceremonies and preparing offerings for the gods. Fragrant incense fills the air as sunlight passes between the massive columns. At the heart of the temple is a sacred sanctuary, a place reserved for important religious rituals. The Egyptians believed that their temples were homes of the gods, and every detail had meaning. Workers, artists, and priests all played their part in maintaining these extraordinary places. Outside, merchants and travelers move through the surrounding streets while the temple towers above them. For centuries, Egyptian rulers added new monuments to Karnak, leaving behind layers of history carved into stone. And as the afternoon sun begins to fade, the massive columns glow golden against the Egyptian sky. Karnak was more than a temple. It was a symbol of faith, power, and the extraordinary civilization that flourished along the Nile. As the afternoon approaches, the temples of ancient Egypt become quieter. Inside the sacred halls, priests begin preparing for one of the most important parts of Egyptian religious life. To the ancient Egyptians, the temple was believed to be the earthly home of the gods. Priests carefully wash themselves before entering the most sacred areas. They wear clean white linen and prepare offerings of bread, fruit, flowers, and incense. Inside the sanctuary, a sacred statue representing the god is treated with great respect. Incense fills the air as priests perform prayers and rituals that had been passed down through generations. Some rituals take place every morning, while larger ceremonies are performed during important religious festivals. Music, chanting, offerings. They were a way of maintaining harmony between the human world, nature, and the gods. Outside the sanctuary, ordinary Egyptians may bring their own offerings and prayers, hoping for health, protection, a good harvest, or prosperity for their families. Priests also play an important role beyond religious ceremonies. They help manage temple lands, store grain, supervise workers, and organize offerings. The temples are therefore not only places of worship, but also powerful centers of Egyptian society. As the sun begins to fall toward the western horizon, the temple slowly becomes quieter. The incense fades into the evening air, and the priests complete their final duties. For the people of ancient Egypt, these rituals were more than traditions. They were a way of maintaining harmony between the human world, nature, and the gods. And every day, the ancient rituals continued beneath the shadow of the great temples. As the afternoon slowly arrives, life inside Egyptian homes becomes peaceful and relaxed. For an ancient Egyptian family, home was more than a place to sleep. It was where children learned, parents worked, meals were shared, and traditions were passed from one generation to the next. Children often stayed close to their families and learned by watching the adults around them. A young boy might help his father in the fields, learn fishing beside the Nile, or watch a craftsman at work. Girls could learn household skills from their mothers, including preparing food, caring for younger children, and making textiles. But childhood was not only about work. Children also played with simple toys made from wood, clay, leather, and woven materials. They could play with small balls, dolls, animals, and games that required very little equipment. Inside the home, grandparents played an important role in family life. They could tell stories about ancient rulers, gods, and events from the past, helping children understand the traditions of their community. Family meals were another important part of the day. Everyone gathered together on woven mats and shared simple foods such as bread, vegetables, dates, fish, and fruit. As the afternoon heat became stronger, families often looked for shade. Some rested inside their homes while others gathered in courtyards beneath woven shelters. Later, as the sun began to set, children followed their parents home from the day's activities. The Nile reflected the golden evening light, and the village slowly became quieter. For ancient Egyptian families, life was built around simple things: food, family, work, stories, and tradition. And through their children, those traditions would continue for another generation. By late afternoon, the Nile becomes even busier. For the people of ancient Egypt, the river is more than water. It is the great road connecting villages, farms, markets, temples, and distant cities. Small wooden and reed boats move quietly across the river. Fishermen return with their daily catch, while merchants transport grain, pottery, linen, and other goods. Some boats are powered by long wooden oars. Others use large square sails that catch the warm Egyptian wind. Along the riverbanks, farmers load baskets of grain onto boats, preparing to send their harvest toward nearby towns. Traveling by river is often much easier than crossing the dry desert. Large cargo boats can carry heavy stones and building materials for temples and monuments. The Nile makes it possible to move enormous loads across the kingdom. Passengers also travel along the river. Families, officials, merchants, and travelers climb aboard and begin their journey toward distant destinations. As the boat moves downstream, palm trees and green fields pass slowly along the riverbanks. Birds fly above the water while fishermen cast their nets from small boats. The river is filled with life. As the sun begins to set, boats slowly return toward the villages. Golden light reflects across the water, and the busy river becomes peaceful once again. For thousands of years, the Nile carries not only people and goods, but the life of an entire civilization. As the afternoon continues, the marketplace becomes one of the busiest places in the city. Merchants arrive carrying goods from villages along the Nile and from distant regions beyond Egypt. Stalls are filled with baskets of grain, fresh vegetables, dates, figs, fish, bread, pottery, woven linen, and colorful decorations. The air is filled with voices as buyers and sellers negotiate over prices. There is no modern supermarket here. Every item is displayed openly, and customers carefully choose what they need for their families. A fisherman offers his morning catch, while a farmer displays baskets of onions, cucumbers, and grain. Nearby, skilled craftsmen sell beautifully made pottery, wooden objects, jewelry, and woven cloth. Some merchants have traveled great distances to bring rare goods into Egypt, including valuable stones, spices, incense, and exotic materials. Children follow their parents through the crowded marketplace, watching the merchants and craftsmen at work. Donkeys carry heavy baskets through the narrow streets while shoppers carefully move aside. The marketplace is noisy, colorful, and full of life. But it is more than a place to buy food. It is where people meet friends, exchange news, find work, and discover goods from distant lands. As the sun begins to sink lower, merchants start packing their remaining goods. The busy voices slowly become quieter. Another day in the Egyptian marketplace comes to an end. And tomorrow, the stalls will open again, ready for another day beside the Nile. As the marketplace begins to quiet down, another world of activity continues inside the workshops of ancient Egypt. Here, skilled craftsmen spend their days creating objects used by ordinary families, wealthy Egyptians, temples, and even the pharaoh. Woodworkers carefully shape furniture, stools, doors, and small decorative objects using simple tools. Nearby, potters work with soft clay, shaping bowls, jars, plates, and containers by hand. Some craftsmen specialize in jewelry. They work with gold, colorful stones, beads, and glass-like materials to create necklaces, bracelets, rings, and beautiful ornaments. Other artisans work with linen. They spin plant fibers into thread and carefully weave them into cloth used for clothing, beds, and household items. Painters and sculptors also have an important role. They decorate walls with colorful scenes showing people, animals, gods, farming, hunting, and daily life. Many of these images were created thousands of years ago, yet they still help us understand how Egyptians lived. The work requires patience and incredible skill. A single piece of furniture or jewelry can take many hours to complete. Craftsmanship is often passed from parents to children, allowing knowledge and techniques to survive across generations. As evening approaches, the workshops slowly become quieter. Tools are placed aside, unfinished objects are carefully stored, and craftsmen prepare to return home. Their creations may look simple compared with modern technology, but their skill helped shape one of the most remarkable civilizations in history. And many of their works have survived for thousands of years. As evening approaches, Egyptian families begin returning to their homes. For most people, home is a simple mud brick building designed to stay cool under the hot Egyptian sun. Inside, families gather together after a long day of work. Mothers prepare food while children help with small household tasks. Bread, vegetables, dates, fish, and grains are common parts of daily meals. Some homes contain simple wooden stools, woven mats, storage jars, and small tables. Wealthier families may have larger houses with several rooms, courtyards, gardens, and decorated walls. Children spend much of their time with their families, learning practical skills from their parents. A young boy might learn farming, fishing, or craft, while girls may learn cooking, weaving, and household work. At night, families sit together and talk about the day's events. Oil lamps provide a small amount of light as darkness settles over the village. Outside, the sounds of the Nile and the evening insects fill the warm air. Life may seem simple compared with today, but family remains at the heart of everyday Egyptian life. And as everyone settles down for the night, another day in ancient Egypt quietly comes to an end. As night falls over the Nile Valley, religion remains an important part of Egyptian life. The ancient Egyptians believed that powerful gods controlled different parts of the natural world. Temples were places where priests performed rituals, offered food, incense, and prayers, and cared for sacred images. Among the most important gods were Ra, associated with the sun, Osiris, associated with the afterlife, and Isis, a powerful goddess connected with motherhood and protection. Inside a temple, priests followed carefully established rituals. They purified themselves, prepared offerings, and entered sacred areas that ordinary people could not normally enter. The walls of temples were covered with detailed paintings and carved scenes. These images showed gods, kings, religious ceremonies, and stories from Egyptian belief. Religion was also closely connected with death. Egyptians believed that life continued after death, and they carefully prepared bodies and tombs for the journey into the afterlife. This belief influenced everything from burial rituals to the construction of enormous monuments. For ordinary Egyptians, religion was not simply something practiced inside temples. It was connected to farming, family, festivals, death, and the changing seasons. As the stars appear above the Nile, the temples become quiet. But for the Egyptians, the world of the gods was never far away. It was woven into almost every part of life. Thousands of years have passed since the people of ancient Egypt walked along the Nile. Their cities have disappeared, their rulers are gone, and many of their homes have turned to dust. Yet their civilization still speaks to us. The pyramids remain among the most recognizable monuments ever built. Their temples and tombs continue to reveal details about Egyptian beliefs, technology, art, and daily life. The hieroglyphs carved into stone have allowed historians to recover names, stories, laws, prayers, and records from a distant world. Egyptian mathematics and engineering helped create enormous structures with remarkable precision. Their understanding of agriculture allowed communities to flourish around the Nile for thousands of years. Their art also left a powerful legacy. Paintings, statues, jewelry, furniture, and everyday objects show us not only what Egyptians created, but how they imagined their world. Perhaps the most remarkable thing is that ancient Egypt was not only about pharaohs and pyramids. It was about farmers working in the fields, craftsmen working in workshops, families sharing meals, children learning from their parents, and ordinary people living their lives beside the great Nile. Today, travelers still stand before the pyramids and temples and wonder how such an ancient civilization achieved so much. The answers are scattered across stones, tombs, tools, and thousands of surviving artifacts. And the story of ancient Egypt reminds us of something important. Civilizations may disappear, but the ideas, creations, and stories they leave behind can survive for thousands of years. And that is the enduring legacy of ancient Egypt.